Hi, this is Group 7. We've got Greg, Alex, Gene, and Dallas, and we're going to run our storytelling exercise. We'll start with me, then Alex will go, then Gene, then Dallas. So my story is kind of a funny, somewhat embarrassing story of a job I started probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was one that it was the first time I was in as a systems administrator and the network administrator, and my boss gave me the job to go and install this new elementary school with internet, phone, and fax service. So I went in, I connected up, my fiber had already been spliced in, and I put my equipment in, and they gave me a really old battery backup to use for this. And they said they had tested it, everything worked. I took it up to the school, I plugged it in, turned it on, the lights came on, and it immediately shut off. So I checked everything, unplugged it, plugged into a different outlet, turned it on, the lights came on, it immediately shut off. And I played with this dumb thing for probably 10, 15 minutes, and it just kept doing the same thing. So finally I called up my boss and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but you guys gave me a bad battery unit here. He says, no, I tested that myself. I said, well, it's not working. So I explained to him what happened. I turn it in, or I plug everything in, hit the switch on the front, lights come on, it turns off. And he says, yeah, you've got to turn it on. I said, no, I do that. I turn it on, I hit the button, you see everything powers up for about 3 seconds and shuts off. And he says, all right, turn it around, look at the back, there's a switch there. And as I turned it and looked, I could see there was a second power switch. And I just hung my head and went, oh no. It's like 2 weeks into a new job. And my boss, when I was getting off the phone, I just heard him go, oh, moron, as he hung up. And I was like, well, I guess I deserve that, but so yeah, that was a pretty good embarrassing moment for the first 2 weeks of a job. So
That's awesome. I love technology.
yeah, sometimes it'll get you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how do you want to do this for the critiquing? You just want like the next person to give next two people to give a positive, and then the third the bad. We just kind of rotate like that.
Sure.
All right, I'll go first. It makes it easy for me this time. I liked it. I thought what I liked about it was it flowed very well. You know, it wasn't disjointed, from beginning to end. I mean, it's only 2 minutes, but you can still mess up 2 minutes. Yeah. I thought you did a good job of having the whole thing flow beginning to end. So, A+.
All right.
I completely agree with what Alex said. I'll go ahead and give maybe constructive feedback. I think maybe the one area I thought you could improve was maybe lead in with, like, you kind of worked through the story, but the start of the story is a little slow. So that first part, if you give us something beforehand to kind of catch our interest a little early, like I thought it's a good, funny story. I liked it, but you just need something at the start to get people caught into it a little bit quicker.
Okay. All right.
But really good overall. I think you did a great job.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Dallas, do you have a good or a negative for me?
Sorry, I was looking at it. I thought we each had to give you 2 strength and the negative, but I guess as a group we're doing it. I'm kind of confused by that. Do you know if we're doing it right?
I don't know. Maybe let's look at the instructions and we may start this over and try again.
It just wasn't very clear in the instructions, so I feel like maybe I interpreted it wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, it says for each presenter, the group needs to provide verbal feedback for the presenter. 2 strengths, 1 area of constructive criticism.
Okay.
So I don't think everybody needs to have 2 and 1, but just 2 and 1 for everybody.
Cool. Well, in which case, I guess I will contribute. I really liked how casual you were. I felt like, you were just telling a story to a friend, and I thought that came off as very genuine. So, yeah, good job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, should we move to your story?
Hey, I'm ready if you're ready. All right. So when I was 10 years old, I survived my second and third biggest fears. Okay, we were in Hawaii. We were on a little snorkeling tour, and our boat stopped in the middle of the ocean somewhere, and I jumped off. I mean, I was waiting for no one. And I was looking at those fish and loving life. And after a while, I decided to head back to the boat. And when I looked up, my stomach dropped to my knees because the boat looked like a tiny little dot on the horizon. I mean, I was freaked out. Second biggest fear, getting stranded in the middle of the ocean. So I, calmed myself down, started swimming back, realizing my mom loved me and she wasn't going to leave me. And I'd keep looking in the water every once in a while to try and distract myself. And when I did one time, my stomach sank to my ankles because down towards the ocean floor, I saw a shark. My 10-year-old mind's going back to Shark Week, and I'm freaking out. I mean, I got shivers up and down my spine. And I eventually start swimming again with little T-Rex arms. I'm more slithering in the ocean than I am swimming because I was so freaked out. And as I was swimming, I was looking back in the water, keeping an eye on my new friend. And when I looked back, he was gone. I had no idea where he was. So I just, kept doggy paddling along. And I jumped because something brushed against my foot. And I turned around fully expecting to see Jaws come at me, and breach the water and carry me like he does a seal. But luckily, to my relief, it was just a tiny little fish. And I wanted to kill that stupid fish because he scared me half to death. But after that, I just booked it back to that boat as fast as I could. I mean, I swimming so fast, my 10-year-old self, that I could beat Michael Phelps. And then I finally got back to the boat, relieved I didn't die by shark attack. And when I got on the boat, I remember this to this day, I discovered my fourth greatest fear, which was the look in my mother's eyes and how angry she was when I jumped off the boat by myself in the middle of the ocean. But luckily, I survived. I'm here, and Hawaii ended up being a good trip. So it all worked out. Let me have it.
I thought it was very, very, very natural. I felt like we were just two guys at a bar talking, and you were telling a great story. And I loved your metaphors. Like, you had some really good metaphors in there that kind of made what you were feeling very vivid to me. And very nice job.
Oh, thank you very much. We can go get a drink anytime you want.
Yeah, I really liked your use of imagery throughout your story. I felt like you painted a really good picture of what was going on. So that was really good.
Thank you. You can come too, Dallas. We'll all go get a drink sometime.
All right, and I guess that leaves the constructive criticism.
Yeah, give me the 1 point to improve on, or whatever it says in the.
I would probably say the same thing that Gene said for me on that. Just your introduction. Make sure you have something to kind of tie it in a little bit more. You had a pretty good introduction with here are my couple of my two big fears that I worked with and overcame. Maybe if there was, I don't know, some other way to say, maybe that's not the greatest constructive criticism, but that's probably about the only thing I can.
No, that's a good point. That's a big part of the speech. So yeah, that's good.
Okay, thanks. All right, Gene, you ready?
Alrighty. I would have rather done a funny one or an embarrassing one, but I couldn't think of any good stories like that. So it's not one I particularly like to talk about, but I'm going to do my scariest moment. Until about 6 years ago, I don't think I'd ever had a truly scary moment in my life, and I don't think I've had one since. Not to say that I was never scared before or since, but there's fear, and then there's haunting terror. One beautiful foggy weekend in the Bay Area, I was getting an eye exam. I had my wife and 5-year-old son with me to drive me home after because I was going to get my eyes dilated. Moments after we started the drive home, we noticed the rear passenger side tire was flat. We pulled over immediately, and I got out to assess the situation. Too flat to make the short journey home on. I decided to put the spare on where we were. In retrospect, might have been wiser to take it a bit further. We had pulled off to the side, but it was a busy road going up a hill with not much space on the side lane, only a few inches between the traffic and the driver's side. Despite being barely able to see, I jacked the car up and started putting on the spare. My wife got out to lend a hand, which is to say she watched me. Our son was in the back seat of the car. With both of our attentions fully on the tire, we didn't notice young Ethan move over to the driver's side and open the door. We didn't notice until we saw the large truck honk and swerve. We saw him a few feet into the lane. Time slowed. A canyon opened in my stomach. I bolted over and swept him into my arms, closed the car door that was protruding into the lane, and quickly walked back onto the sidewalk. He was frightened, but fine. I held him tightly for a moment, finished the tire, and we safely returned home. It was a lesson learned, but I can't help think the difference a matter of a foot would have made, or a less attentive truck driver. For the first time in my life, I felt what it might have been like to lose something so important to me. I was frightened. To this day, when I think about that moment that's frozen in time in my mind, I still feel the empty space. Like right here, I physically feel it. I learned that we have to protect the things we love and value the time we have with them. That's it.
I'll give a constructive point, or not constructive, positive point with that. I think you did a great job telling that story. I have 2 little girls myself, and as you were telling that, I felt that pit in my stomach just sink because that is something that would freak me out just as bad. That I totally connected with you on that. So good job in telling that, even though it was a horrible, scary experience.
Thank you.
I guess I'll give a constructive one. I really like your beginning and your ending. I felt like it was really natural at the beginning, but then I feel like you started to read. Maybe I am interpreting it wrong, but it just felt not as natural as it did at the start.
Yeah, thank you. I felt that too. I definitely had to look down more for to follow my own line of thought there on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you, for a good point here, I think you set that story up well. I mean, I have 2 little kids as well, and I'm still feeling that pit in my stomach, like Greg was saying. And I thought you did a great job of, I mean, even just the tone of your voice, it was a scary moment, and it was kind of a somber tone, which really set the mood, which I thought was really good. So, well done.
Thanks, guys. Sorry it's a heavy one.
No, you're good.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Sorry. Okay, so in 2015, I was in my 3rd year of medical school, and I was trying to decide what specialty to go into. And I was thinking about emergency medicine when my friend Ashley and I went down to Zions for this hike. It's called the Subway. It's in backcountry Zions, and really, it's marked by Karen. So you really have to keep your eyes on things. Well, we planned the whole day out, and we got to the Subway, and it was beautiful. It was pretty much like the New York subway. It's this tunnel with flowing water, and as we were walking out, we noticed that the sun was descending. And this was the first time I started to get worried on a hike. The sun was starting to set. We had another 4 miles to go, and neither of us had been very prepared. We did not bring enough water. We were only wearing tank tops and shorts. There were no cell signal. So as we were hiking out, I got more and more nervous, and Ashley, my friend, got more and more anxious that we weren't moving fast enough, and she kept prompting me, and all of a sudden I started to imagine all the things that could go wrong, and I just totally froze. For 5 minutes, I just stood in the water and did absolutely nothing, and she had to drag me out of the canyon. Luckily for me, she was very good at handling a situation like that, and we made it out alive. But that was a point where I realized I could never be an emergency medicine physician.
I like it. Well done. I've been on that hike. It is, if you get disoriented or lost, it is pretty scary. I haven't given a point to improve on yet, so I guess I'll do that. I really like the story. I thought it flowed really well. I would just watch, and this is something that I work on too, is the use of
Yeah.
I use that a lot.
So
that's why I noticed it. It's like when you buy a car, all of a sudden, it's everyone else having that same car.
Yeah.
So that's just, one little thing I would work on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, for a positive note on that one, you had a really good story that just kind of flowed from start to beginning. It seemed like you told it well. You were very articulate with what you wanted to say, and it just came across very smoothly. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would agree with what both Greg and Alex said. I thought both of those points as well. I would also say you had a very nice kind of a comforting flow to it. Just like it was nice listening to you, and you told the story well. I liked the tone and the there's a term for it in the rubric from last week's thing. I can't remember what it is, but I would have graded you highly on that. I liked the way you talked about it.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.